Consumer Price Index, January 2024. Transmission of material in this release is embargoed until 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tuesday, February 13, 2024. The Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, CPI-U, increased 0.3% in January on a seasonally adjusted basis, after rising 0.2% in December, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reported today. Over the last 12 months, the All Items Index increased 3.1% before seasonal adjustment. The index for shelter continued to rise in January, increasing 0.6% and contributing over 2/3 of the monthly all items increase. The food index increased 0.4% in January, as the food at home index increased 0.4% and the food away from home index rose 0.5% over the month. In contrast, the energy index fell 0.9% over the month due in large part to the decline in the gasoline index. The index for all items less food and energy rose 0.4% in January. Indexes which increased in January include shelter, motor vehicle insurance, and medical care. The index for used cars and trucks and the index for apparel were among those that decreased over the month. The All Items Index rose 3.1% for the 12 months ending January, a smaller increase than the 3.4% increase for the 12 months ending December. The All Items Less Food and Energy Index rose 3.9% over the last 12 months, the same increase as for the 12 months ending December. The Energy Index decreased 4.6% for the 12 months ending January, while the Food Index increased 2.6% over the last year. Food. The Food Index rose 0.4% in January, and the Food at Home Index also increased 0.4% over the month. 4 of the 6 major grocery store food group indexes increased over the month. The Index for Other Food at Home, which contains the index for sugar and sweets, the index for fats and oils, and the index for other foods, rose 0.6% in January. The Non-Alcoholic Beverages Index rose 1.2% over the month, and the Fruits and Vegetables Index increased 0.4%. The index for dairy and related products increased 0.2% in January. In contrast to these increases, the Cereals and Bakery Products Index declined 0.2% in January. The index for meats, poultry, fish, and eggs was unchanged over the month. The Food Away from Home Index rose 0.5% in January. The index for full-service meals rose 0.4% and the index for limited-service meals increased 0.6% over the month. The Food at Home Index rose 1.2% over the last 12 months. The index for Other Food at Home rose 2.6% over the 12 months ending in January. The index for non-alcoholic beverages rose 3.4% over the last 12 months and the index for cereals and bakery products increased 1.5% over that period. The Fruits and Vegetables Index rose 1.1% over the 12 months ending in January. In comparison, the Meats, Poultry, Fish, and Eggs Index decreased 0.9% over the year, and the Dairy and Related Products Index fell 1.1%. The index for Food Away from Home rose 5.1% over the last year. The index for limited service meals rose 5.8% over the last 12 months, and the index for full service meals rose 4.3% over the same period. Energy. The Energy Index fell 0.9% in January, as its component indexes were mixed. The Gasoline Index decreased 3.3% in January. Before seasonal adjustment, gasoline prices fell 1.5% in January. The Fuel Oil Index decreased 4.5% in January. In contrast, the Electricity Index rose 1.2% in January and the Natural Gas Index increased 2.0% over the month. The Energy Index fell 4.6% over the past 12 months. The Gasoline Index decreased 6.4%. The Natural Gas Index declined 17.8%, and the Fuel Oil Index fell 14.2% over this 12-month span. In comparison, the index for electricity rose 3.8% over the last year. All items less food and energy. The index for all items less food and energy rose 0.4% in January. The shelter index increased 0.6% in January, and was the largest factor in the monthly increase in the index for all items less food and energy. The index for owner's equivalent rent rose 0.6% over the month, while the index for rent increased 0.4%. The lodging away from home index increased 1.8% in January. The motor vehicle insurance index increased 1.4% in January, and the recreation index rose 0.5% in January. Among other indexes that rose in January were communication, personal care, airline fares, and education. The medical care index rose 0.5% in January. The index for hospital services increased 1.6% over the month, and the index for physician services increased 0.6%. The prescription drugs index fell 0.8% in January. The index for used cars and trucks fell 3.4% in January. The apparel index also decreased, falling 0.7% over the month. The index for new vehicles was unchanged in January. The index for all items less food and energy rose 3.9% over the past 12 months. The shelter index increased 6.0% over the last year, accounting for over 2/3 of the total 12-month increase in the all items less food and energy index. Other indexes with notable increases over the last year include motor vehicle insurance, plus 2.0%, recreation, plus 2.8%, personal care, plus 5.3%, and medical care, plus 1.1%. Not seasonally adjusted CPI measures. The Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, CPI-U, increased 3.1% over the last 12 months to an index level of 308.417, 1,982 minus 84 equals 100. For the month, the index increased 0.5% prior to seasonal adjustment. The Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers, CPI-W, increased 2.9% over the last 12 months to an index level of 302.201, 1,982 minus 84 equals 100. For the month, the index increased 0.5% prior to seasonal adjustment. The Chained Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, CCPI-U, increased 2.8% over the last 12 months. For the month, the index increased 0.5% on a not seasonally adjusted basis. Please note that the indexes for the past 10 to 12 months are subject to revision. The Consumer Price Index for February 2024 is scheduled to be released on Tuesday, March 12, 2024, at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.